Hey guys, how is everybody today? I'm Dan Harrison, and you know that obviously, and it is Thursday, and it is May. I'm a little scattered because I've been running from thing to thing today, but um, we are going to try something a little different today. I'm going to try to run a screen that's got some thoughts on it to kind of illustrate some of what I'd like to talk about today, and some of the things that I think are really relevant to all of us. You know, when we started this whole just dizzying journey of 9 weeks or however long ago it's been, I think there was a real hunger for information. We saw our virtual attendance to our forums and town halls at the highest levels that it had been, and we've seen that begun to wane. We've talked about that, and it occurred to me after a couple of meetings that I had. I was at an ADDP board meeting earlier today, and a couple of other things that, in some ways, now as we talk about the reopening, and we begin to think about the reconfigured or the reimagined human service network. Now it seems like it's almost more important that people should be dialing back in, because as we start to think about where we go from here and how that's going to look, it's pretty significant, some of the stuff. And so for those of you who are here today, welcome. Thank you for being here. This is important, and uh, I need you all to be aware of this as much as you can, and as we start to think about what our next steps are and how it's going to impact not just our staff and our clients and our families, but really, I think, the future of our industry in some important ways. It sounds dramatic, but I think this is going to have a lasting impact. So before I start this kind of serious trudge, I wanted to thank Sharon Pitts for this beautiful mask that she delivered to me today. It's got cubics on it, and I will wear it with great pride when I leave the house, because it's something that responsible people do to protect others. So uh, Greg told me how to do this, and I'm going to try to do it. Uh, we we were introduced last week to uh, Governor Baker's phased plan of reopening. So that's been sort of what many people are talking about. And I know that within this community, we have spent hours and hours thinking about what that's going to look like. And I have a few slides here I wanted to just share with you to kind of help, if I can get this over. So um, I'm going to try to. Greg, did that work?
You're good, D.
I am okay, but now I just have myself. My face is blocking the screen, so I'm just going to try to keep that out of the way a little bit. So when we say we're going to reopen or begin to do it in these various phases, the easy way to kind of approach it, or the simple way, the wrong way, is to say, well, so we're phase two. We're probably going to be opening in 3 weeks, but we know that that is far from that. I got this slide from mass.gov website. If you've never or you haven't visited it recently, I would suggest you do. I'm very proud of our state and of how we are approaching this, and the level of detail and tools that are made available on the website. So check it out if you haven't. But this kind of organizes some of the thoughts that have gone into how we're going to move from phase one through phase four into what they call the new normal. Um, and it's daunting to think about how much is going to be involved as we think about bringing everybody back. And yet we know we got this, and we're gonna manage this together. When the governor spoke and introduced this last week, we saw that the day programs, adult day health, day HABs, CBDS, our employment programs fell into phase two, and that's the general sort of guidance that has been provided. Although I think what we're going to see is something that's going to be much more scattershot than that, in the sense that day HABs may be delayed many more weeks, according to what the needs are in the organization, what the population uh, uh, is comprised of. For New Path, our Martin Center has some very medically fragile people. So these are folks that are especially prone to COVID-19. We may see that delayed, and some of that also has to do with staffing. Um, One of the things we learned was going to drive the timing of this, and again, these are slides that I took directly from mass.gov, is this dashboard. It's a 6-step or six points that has to do with the positive test rate. We talked about that last week, and I know this sounds maybe a little bit dry, but I appreciate your attention to it because it's very important, and you're going to be hearing more and more about it. So it's good that you know and understand. The positive test rate, that is the number of positive results that come back out of all of the tests that are administered. And we'll see green, yellow, or red in each of these categories to communicate to the populace where we are and how either we're going the wrong way or the right way. We'll be looking at the number of individuals who have died, the patients that are currently in hospitals, what our healthcare system readiness is. That's so that we've got the surge capacity for people that get very ill, what our testing capacity is, and what our trace capabilities are, and this, the contact tracing that we're hearing more and more and more about. So if you want to look at the where we are currently, and I think this is important to look at numbers, we hear them, but we don't always, sort of connect it. But Massachusetts now has got nearly 89,000 confirmed cases. We topped 6,000 just yesterday or today, people who have died. 6,000 people, guys. 6,000 people. It's just so many people. And the total tests that have been performed since this all began, 489,000. So that's a lot. Today there were 13,000. If you look there, tests that were conducted. How does it compare with what's going on in the rest of the United States and globally? Well, we're now, as there's been, as I said, 88,000 confirmed cases in Massachusetts. We have now over 1.5 million in the United States. Globally, there's over 5 million. We talked about the 6,000 deaths that we're at now. In the US, we're now over 93,000, and that's up. You can see there, 1,400 or so from yesterday, and the deaths are at 328,000. Another slide I wanted to share with you speaks to the positive test rate. This is what I mentioned a moment ago. We talked about last week. This is how many positive tests, what the percentage is. And so in Massachusetts, we're now down to 9.9. This tells us as of Tuesday, May 19th, and the 3-day average of the COVID deaths, we were down to about 82. Is a decrease of about 46. So we're trending in the right direction. So these are good things that will allow us to begin to think about reopening and moving to the various phases. We talked about how there's a great emphasis on the testing capacity. So yesterday there were 13,000 tests reported. But if we're going to hit the goal of 45,000 tests a day by July, that's going to require an increase of 245% from where we are today. A lot of tests, and that's a lot of activity in order to get where we need to go. And if we're going to hit the December goal of 75,000 that we talked about last week and that the governor talked about, it's going to require a 476% increase. These are big numbers. And why do I tell you? I tell you because um, I believe it's going to become part of our strategy for reopening and for staying open. And I think there's going to be some businesses that may have people being tested every day. And it may be like this for some time until there is a vaccine that is available and widely distributed. And if we wish to return to some form of normal life, we may need to figure out how we're going to build into our daily or weekly routines being tested for COVID, because we're still very, very vulnerable to the spread of this. This is from the website. Again, I typed in 01801 to find out what the closest test sites would be. There were 5 in Woburn. If you're curious about your own area, I suggest you look at it. This is for families, anyone who is interested. If you haven't had one, I suggest you think about getting one. It won't be your last probably. And I think part of what we also want to impress upon people here, and if you're watching this, that means you're a very dedicated staff, you're a very connected family member. Um, we may have staff that are resistant to being tested. There may be people that for some reason or another don't want to have anything to do with that. And I think that we need to begin through positive example, setting the standard that this just becomes part of our cultural sort of norm and expectation. If we want to keep our people safe, and if we want to help stop the spread of this virus, we're going to have to change our behavior and continue to think about ways that that's going to impact our lives. Um, we talked about in Massachusetts, it's gone down to 9.9%. About a month ago, it was 20%. This is the positive test rates. And then when this all began, it was about 30% if everyone tested was positive. And so we're definitely trending in the right direction. So what's going on at NewPath? We've begun to track our data in a different way, and I've asked that we begin to put this into some format that more closely represents how the Commonwealth is tracking some of the data. So we had 0 cases reported today. We've had a total of 12 confirmed cases. You can see that. Newly reported deaths, 0 at NewPath. Total deaths, I have here 0. We've not experienced the death of anyone in our residential care. We've had 6 deaths for people that were in our day programs that passed away by most reports that we can tell by COVID related. New tests reported today, I was told there was 1, and that we've had a total of 59 tests. I forgot about these little circles, 59 tests total. So we still have a little ways to go. What is our positive test rate? Well, on April 15th, it was 20%. And as of today, it's at about 4.5%. So we're trending in the right direction. We're doing a lot of things right. And I, again, never want to miss an opportunity to express my deepest gratitude and respect for Sharon Pitts and her team of nurses and all the people that have helped her, the clinical department that helps get people to tests, the staff that just gone to the ends of the earth to make a lot of this happen. You're the reason why we're in the positive position that we're in. We're just going to show this one final graph that I pulled from mass.gov. This is the case-by-case growth by county. Why should we continue to be concerned beyond hearing about it from the guidance we received from the governor and other state officials? Well, because look at which county has the highest number of cases. That's Middlesex County. And if you don't know what county we're in Middlesex County. So there is plenty of reason to be ever vigilant. And if for some reason you don't live in Middlesex County or you live in New Hampshire, don't think it gets you off the hook either, because it's something that we have to be extremely conscious of. We talked last week about breaking this down into to how I see our reopening being successful, and how we're going to do this, and how we're going to reunite families, and how we're going to start to begin to reintroduce some of the most basic things that we have expected always in the past and taken for granted, maybe. Well, we need to have adequate testing, and we're getting closer and closer into that. And once we start to hear that, people should be getting it on with some regularity, I'll let you know that, because that will certainly, I'm sure, be a part of how we are going to begin to more uh, reintroduce people back into environments. The contact tracing is huge. We'll talk more about that probably next week, but there's all kinds of work being done with various apps. And right now what they're saying, the campaign is that if you get a call from somebody doing contact tracing, take the call, because it probably means you have been exposed to somebody through someone that has gotten or been diagnosed or has tested positive for COVID-19. So that's something new that we're going to have to be aware of. Many of us, if we don't recognize the number, we just say, I'm not going to answer it. Make sure that if you see that it's somebody calling for contact tracing, you take it. We're working right now, and we're talking a couple of minutes just briefly about some of the highlights, about some of the things we're thinking about related to our standards and practices for our workplace. And all of this, I believe, at the end of the day, it comes down to a sense of personal responsibility and our willingness to adhere to guidance, even if we sometimes think it makes us, well, no one could be silly in a Cubics mask, but it's not easy, guys. I know it's not, and it's not going to be much easier, or it's more difficult even when we start to go back into our office spaces. And then, it's I yesterday I met with the senior team over at New Boston, no, not New Boston Street, over at the Martin Center, and we were there, and so I felt like I needed to put something on other than sweats or jeans or shorts or something. I was like, it's gonna be kind of a pain when we actually have to start showing back up with ties on and all the rest. And I do have a blazer on, but the adherence to guidelines is not an easy thing. It's not going to be easy, but we've got to do it, and we've got to make that our own personal sense of responsibility. Brett and his team have introduced a kind of a new slogan, a new catchphrase to help us think about a number of things, and we're calling it the New Path Now. New Path. This is New Path Now more than ever. It's related to our kind of a push that we're going to be making for some fundraising. We're in we're in tough shape financially. I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not going to get into the details right now, but we're going to be having to make some very thoughtful and serious decisions financially over the next couple of weeks and months going forward as we begin to think about the workplace in a new way. But if you think about New Path Now, we're going to think with great fondness. I believe that from this point forward, it's always going to be pre-COVID and post-COVID. Those are going to be the two kinds of realities. It's going to be, oh yeah, remember that was before the pandemic. Oh, this is New Path Now. This is what we have now, and this is what we're going to build together now. And how are we going to do it in a way that reflects the spirit of who we are, our commitment to our families, to our clients, to making sure that we're the most innovative, the best we can possibly be, that we're always, reaching for exceptional goals and the hard to reach, sort of opportunities for folks. We're gonna still hold those beliefs and those commitments, dearly in our hearts, but it's going to look very different. As I said, we're introducing the New Path Now more than ever as it relates to fundraising, and Brett will be probably sharing more about that as we go forward. You'll be hearing more, thinking about it from a social media perspective, always maintaining the distancing, and a new shirt that's been recently released. I don't have one of these yet, but talking about the New Path Now more than ever, that you can get on our website through the threadless.com. But what else? So this is what's on my head in my head today. We're going to be thinking about New Path now in regards to what our daily services look like. Um, just because we are in a phase or we reach a phase where we can begin to reopen programs, they're not going to look like they did when we closed them in March, 18th. We're going to be required to have fewer than 10 people in a room, and how are we going to get people there? And it can't be in vans. It's not going to be social distanced enough, and this is going to take a lot of thinking about, and even when we get to something on the other side, it's in many cases we're probably not going to really recognize it, or it's going to look very different from what we had left behind. This is New Path now, and we're going to be looking at the model now. Staff deployment. We're going to be doing a major reevaluation. We're going to be looking at all of our systems and services as far as our administrative functions, and it may be that the type of staff, the skills, the schedules, the number of hours per week are going to change. We are going to be needing people in different places at different locations. Uh, we may not need as much square footage of space. I'm not. These are not. I'm not saying anything etched in stone. I just want to get us all thinking about a future that is going to look different, and we have to be nimble. We have to be making decisions now because we have to be thinking about how we're going to use our scarce resources in a way that's going to make a real difference and get us close to where we want to be. What are the staff roles and responsibilities? It's going to be something that's going to be evolving. We've got staff that are doing things entirely different today from what they were doing 2 or 3 months ago. And I think we're going to see much more of that. If you're a staff person out there that likes variety, likes change, is excited by challenge, enjoys having your routine evolve and shift and change. I'm somebody like that. I get bored easily with what I'm doing. Then you're probably in good shape because the staff that are most flexible and willing to evolve and grow are the ones that are going to be most successful in New Path now. And stakeholders, that's you families and staff and our clients but it's it's what are the expectations of our stakeholders, of our families, of our community. We need to continue to listen as an organization, understand what it is the people are looking for. Uh, Families, maybe you had an expectation of how things were before. Well, this is New Path now, and we are going to try to work to accomplish the very best for your family members. Always will be our deepest commitment, but first and foremost, we've got to keep people safe, and so it may mean that expectations will change and shift and evolve and look different in the new normal. And the outcomes that we expect, that we track, that we measure through our quality assurance, our strategic positioning, our goals, the things that we were pursuing 2 months ago, all of that is something that's going to have to be reevaluated. And as we determined how we're going to deploy resources and talent in order to achieve our strategic goals, um, it's gonna mean really thinking about things in a different sort of a way. So um, this is a picture that's dear to me because it's a picture that Sharon Pitt sent me last or 2 summers ago maybe, when she was on vacation, and I had it as a screensaver for a long time. But I thought as we all of us think about going into this weekend, and it's such a bizarre juxtaposition of having the sense of worry and concern and anxiety still because we this virus is still raging out there. That's not changed. But yet on at the dawn of the summer that beckons before us, Memorial Day is typically the time of year that we start to really think about the fun and the joy and the thrills and all that summer typically has to offer us. And this summer's going to look different. And so we can be in the sand, we can be doing those fun things, but we'll have to do it in a different kind of a way that that puts us in a position to remain vigilant and ever and constantly cautious um, about what we're doing to do our part in controlling this. Yesterday, I had occasion to, and I wasn't really going to talk about this, but it's just on my mind, so I talk about what's on my mind. I talked to Mike Bodette of Channel 5 News, and we had been recommended by the regional director of Region 3, Kelly Lawless, to as an organization that was doing some really innovative things that that she felt would be something that would be worth hearing about. Now, I don't know what the story is going to look like. Let me stop for a second. Greg, should I change the view so that we can get out of my PowerPoint? I'm trying to think how to do that.
I just took care of it.
You did, thank you. And so I found this out Monday morning that we had been recommended as an agency that Kelly thought we were doing some really incredible things and some things that weren't happening in other places. This is one example of these virtual town halls and forums. Other organizations are not doing this, and I assure you other CEOs are not spending this kind of time talking to people, but I believe it's part of why we've got such a strong contingent of staff that really get and understand what it is we're trying to do together. And through a series of Monday, Tuesday, and then finally yesterday afternoon when I was interviewed by him, we highlighted Sheldon Street and talked about, just because of the Unity Forum that we had and the time was short, and so that they may be featured if you just don't know what the reporter is going to do with the materials that you got. But O'Brien spoke at that. Katie and Aggie both shared that day. We heard from Russell. It was, and I was rewatching it again late last night, this morning, just to make sure, to see what it was that we had shared. And I thought, oh my God, we've come so far from that date, and that was April 24th. And in talking to this reporter through Skype, of course, yesterday, I was just reminded again and so grateful that to go through something like this is not something anyone would choose. But I've said before, if I had to do it, I could not think of another group of people that I would rather walk through this with. Our families are amazing. And to all the staff out there, you guys have just, you've gone so far above and beyond in so many cases. And that makes me so proud. And I know I'm talking to a small subset of all the staff that are out there. There's some very good staff that are not participating today. But if you're listening to this, if you're hearing my voice right now, today, this is a special thank you to you guys, because you are, I believe, the ones that really are making this agency move forward in pretty spectacular ways. And without you, we would be nowhere and nothing. And so I'm deeply, deeply grateful and really recognize that we owe. We're in this together. We belong together. We're doing this a unified way, and I'm very proud of what we're doing together. So thank you. And tomorrow is our Friday Unity Forum. I'm really getting to enjoy these. These are a lot of fun. I'm going to introduce you to Cubix, the COVID crusher. You'll have to wait and see that tomorrow. And we are going to be talking to some staff from New Boston Street, Team New Boston Strong. We've been seeing some really cool things coming out of that, and we've not featured them before. And I hope you will plan on joining me as we wrap up this week, go into Memorial Day, and then begin to set our sights for what is it going to take to reconceive New Path Now. Where are we? What do we do? How do we make it work? How's it going to look? And how are we going to do this into the future? Because we don't know how long it will be before we have a vaccine and before there'll be medical intervention that's going to really make it so that we can put all of this aside. But we will do it. We will do it together because we got this. And Greg, are there any questions? I'm trying to wrap these up a little.
No, D, we're good. We're good.
We're good. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Please tune in tomorrow. We're gonna have a great show for you tomorrow. And yeah, be safe out there. We got this. Bye, guys.